Got it?
Yeah.
Let's welcome in Jennifer Lee Chan, NBC Sports Bay Area. She covers the San Francisco 49ers. Hey, Jennifer, how you doing? Nice to talk to you again.
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good. You know, it's funny. I'll just tell you what we're batting around, and we're batting around quarterbacks in the postseason and their relative experience level. Josh Allen's played 8 games in the postseason. He's 4-4. Lamar Jackson 1-3. I don't have to go through the rest, but we're trying to figure out when experience benefits you and when experience may just tell you what the handwriting on the wall is going to be, if you know what I mean. Like, does Dak Prescott have an advantage over Brock Purdy simply because he's quarterbacked 6 postseason games and Purdy's 2+, that kind of thing? Just give me some thoughts on that.
I think experience in general in football, playing in big games, makes a big difference. If you haven't played in big games, I think it's really hard to go into a playoff situation and be calm because nerves are going to get everybody. I mean, Mitch Wishnowsky has been in with the club for how many years now, and he said, I still get nervous for every punt. So, I mean, there's never a lack of being nervous before a big play in a big game, and I think that, the more guys have done it, the easier it is for them to kind of lose the nerves and get into the game and get focused. You look at Brock Purdy and his history, how many big games he was in at Iowa State. I think that made a huge difference for him when he took over for Jimmy Garoppolo and he got hurt. He didn't, get flustered. He didn't look scared. And I think that confidence that he has really was felt in the huddle, and that helped his performance when he took over.
Jennifer, I can't judge anybody, but, throughout the league, you see, we saw it Sunday, DK Metcalf, he was kind of throwing a tantrum because he wasn't getting the ball. We see Diggs in Buffalo. We see a lot of receivers do it. And my partner came in yesterday and said, why are the Niner players, especially on offense, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, McCaffrey, why are they so selfless that, if their number's not called Ayuk, that they're okay with it, they still block downfield? And he wondered, and we kind of pondered, who gets credit for that? How would you answer that question, why this team is so selfless?
I think it really goes to the origins of this locker room, and that's John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. And they know what the big picture is. They know that the goal is the big game at the end of the season in the playoffs. So, it doesn't matter how many touchdowns each guy has. If they have enough to get them to the Super Bowl and win it, that's what counts. So, I mean, they've had guys who are all pros. They've got a ton of star players on the team, but they'd much rather be winning than having 3 touchdowns in a game and losing. So I think it's the fact that they have the big picture in line, and that comes from John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, and just the way they handle the media, the way they handle everything, it comes from those two. And those two, talk about experience, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, the way they mentally approach each game, even though they're not playing, their mannerisms around the facility, how they deal with the media, how they deal with the pressure, all of that is trickled down into the locker room. Because, from what it was like before I was there for the last year of Jim Harbaugh, and I know what that locker room was like, and with Jim Tomsula and Chip Kelly, and this locker room is leaps and bounds, so much more stable and confident, and it's really because of the way they built it.
Jennifer Lee Chan joining us on 95.7 The Game. She covers the Niners for NBC Sports Bay Area. I need to get this right. The Niners clinched a playoff spot last night. They did not clinch the NFC West, as I think I've said incorrectly a few times. They can do that next week. Jennifer Lee Chan joining us. You've covered, as you said, the entire Kyle Shanahan era, and I couldn't help but listen to the press conference after the game, and he was asked about Wishnowsky and his kind of running, and he said, I didn't really know what happened, and he did it on his own. And then I also heard him asked about the clock management at the end of the first half. And he just said, yeah, we got caught, and then once I decided we were going to do it that way, I didn't want to do it that way. Is Kyle Shanahan becoming a little bit more, I don't know if relaxed is the word, but secure? And if so, is that because he's been around for a while now, or because they're winning?
I think he's become more secure since they started winning. And, I think a big contract extension doesn't hurt either. So he knows that the 49ers want him to stick around. They want him to be their head coach for the long term. But, having confidence in the team and what their abilities are, I think that's part of it. And then just more experience. Just the whole conversation we've had since I got on the phone with you guys is that, experience matters. And the fact that Kyle Shanahan knows what he can control and what he can't control, I think that is reflected in how he deals with press conference situations and, responding to questions about the game. And, I think one thing that I know I appreciate as one of the members of the 49ers media is how honest he is with us and how open he is. He is as much as he can be. Obviously, a lot of other head coaches aren't. They'd like to keep a lot more things secret. I mean, Kyle Shanahan does when he has to, but I think he also wants to teach everybody why, right? He teaches all of his players the why. I think we do a better job covering the team when we know the why. And I think he wants to, he loves the game of football. And I think he wants to share that with fans and the media alike.
Jennifer, I know you're not a mind reader, but it's funny. We hear a lot of athletes say they don't pay attention, and some do, to what's going on social media. But Brock Purdy, it's an amazing story. He's a leader, in some books, the MVP front runner. You think he cares about that?
I think, again, he cares about winning a Super Bowl. Of course, they say they don't hear anything, but I'm sure they do. They have friends and they have family that text them stories and text them information. But I think Brock Purdy is just so locked in on the job at hand, and he's just so focused. He and Christian McCaffrey, I think, are they all are, but I think out of all of them, those two are the preparation junkies of the offense, and because each game means so much, the preparation that it takes, after the install to make sure everything goes right. I mean, they're meticulous in their preparation. I would say that for everybody on the offense, but I think Brock Purdy in particular, with his position at the quarterback, he has to be that way. And so while maybe, he might get a text here and there from friends or family that tell him things that are going on about, like, let's say the hat backwards or whatever it is, guys in the locker room probably tell him, he kind of brushes it off because that stuff doesn't matter. Winning the Super Bowl matters. And that's, I think, the same sentiment across the locker room.
Jen, I got to tell you, I thought Seattle was frisky. The first 72-yard run, I'm like, they're going to score 50. But without Geno Smith, the Seahawks offense had 10 or more plays for 20 or more yards. Were you shocked at that stat? And what's the availability of Mooney Ward going forward, or do we not know yet?
As far as the Seahawks, I was a little surprised at some of the explosives, but I think, with that kind of bend but don't break mentality of the defense, holding another opposing team to a field goal, I think they'd rather have 0, but holding them to a field goal instead of a touchdown is a win for the 49ers defense. As far as Mooney Ward goes, no word yet. Kyle Shanahan said yesterday in his conference call that day to day, I think a good sign is that he stayed in uniform the entire game. Didn't come out. He didn't have his helmet with him, but he stayed out there, I think, just in case someone else went out with a more serious injury. He probably could have gone in if necessary, but obviously they went with Sam Womack out there, Deommodore Lenoir, and Ambry Thomas.
Jennifer Lee Chan joining us on 95.7 The Game. Last one before we let you go, Jennifer. After their third straight loss, the 49ers brought Steve Wilks down to the sidelines. Is there anything tangible that you've seen that has changed? Was it psychological? Obviously, the results have been dynamite. So how do you read into the way that whole situation played out and where it's at now?
I think there's everything. I think Steve Wilks being on the sidelines made a big difference. I think he's able to communicate immediately to players after it happens instead of going through a conduit like a position coach. But there's so many other factors that went into it. It's Chase Young being traded to the team. It's Deommodore Lenoir playing nickel at times. It's Charvarius Ward being allowed to shadow DK Metcalf or whoever the top receiver is. So I think there's so many different factors that go into the fact, into why the 49ers defense is playing so much better. And it's all just come together and they're playing really well. I hope Mooney Ward is healthier because he's been so much fun to watch. I did write a story on NBC Sports Bay Area.com about how his play has changed since his daughter, who just turned 1 year, has been building a relationship with him. I know a lot of dads out there have reached out to me and said how great of a story it was because, children when they're newborns want to be with their mom. And so it was really hard for him and it weighed on him. And once he started, communicating and, she smiles and reacts to him, he's played so much better because it has been weighing on him as much. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Really, really great story. And I think, when you're out, your regular life, your out off the field life is happy. It lets you be more locked in and focused to your game, and it's really worked well for him.
Just if you could just tell him that it's going to probably get worse when she gets to be a teenager. I got a 20-year-old who still doesn't smile when I talk to her. No, that's actually cool, and anybody who's been a father kind of understands it. That's cool. We'll be sure to check that out. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
No problem. You guys have a great day. Talk to you soon.
All right, that's Jennifer Lee Chan. She covers the San Francisco 49ers for NBC Sports Bay Area. Don't